Welcome back. It's part two of Early Days of Fit Solution. We have Damien and David here, longtime employees that have helped scale this business and helped it be successful and still are big contributing members. And so I'm excited to have you guys and talk a little bit about some of the successes that you guys have had and what you've seen in the business.
Thanks for having us. Do it. Yeah, excited.
What's the story with the lady?
Well, so I guess she, we had discussed them for a long time.
Okay.
We had doing our best with her, but, we're high touch. So we reach out to people a lot. We call them a lot. We ask them if they're happy a lot. And from what I understand, a lot of times she wouldn't respond to us, or she would say, I don't want to talk. And we didn't take it personally. We just kind of continued our normal cadence. And then eventually she offboarded with us, right? She left us. And I think what she went with was a company that was, in her mind, less expensive.
Yeah.
Right? In her mind, less expensive. And that lasted for about a year. And now we have her back on the phone. She's calling us back now. She said, for all the times that I blew you off, I didn't realize how nice it was to have an IT company call me and ask me if I was happy. And I took you for granted, and I'm sorry. And she wants to come back.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's great. Yeah, it's not the first time we lost one like that.
I got them right back. Yeah, we've had people leave and come back within like 30 days.
Yeah, we had a, it makes me think, I know we can't name drop right now, but you'll know who I'm talking about, where one of our engineers, they made a mistake. They paused backups and they were doing some work. They paused the backups. No one caught it. We had to restore a file and the backup hadn't been running. And they're like, that's it. You guys are fired. But they couldn't just let us go immediately because they still needed support while they found this next company. Found the next company, and we said, hey, look, let's just keep servicing them as good as we can. Just make the last memories good, make it graceful. And they go to this new company, and
they never even really offboarded.
No, they only
maybe a week later she called.
She was like, never fine.
She was like, no, we're good. We're going to stay. I remember that being. I was very close to that situation, and I remember thinking as it was kind of delaying because she says, okay, 30 days and we're done. That 30-day mark hit, and she was like, oh, we need another 30 days. And then we needed another 30 days. And I was like, this doesn't feel like it's going smooth.
Yeah. It wasn't going smooth.
And
then she's like, you know what? Let's have a conversation. I just want to be sure. And obviously we fixed a lot of processes and how we did our checklists and stuff like that. So that wouldn't repeat.
And that was years ago. And I know for a fact, she just went out to lunch with us last week.
Yeah, they're still customers.
So she's got a new AM and they're hanging out.
Yeah. It's interesting what's going on in the economy too right now. We have a client that's leaving us. I'm super bummed about it, but we've had an amazing relationship with this client for a lot of years. They have a new office manager, essentially, really nice lady. I like her a lot, but one of her tasks is to save money in the department. And so they said, hey, we have this contract with you guys. We've had it for many years, and now we want to shop it to see if it's still competitive. What can you guys do for better pricing? And then they went to some competitors, and we looked at it. There was no way we could actually go lower because it was taking us around 71 to 73 hours per month on average. And the price that they were at was already such a killer deal that we really weren't even making money. It was kind of not even in our interest to keep it. But of course, we never want to lose an existing customer. So we were just honest. We said, look, we cannot cut price at all. It behooves us to increase it, actually. Anyway, they found someone else that is charging $2,000 less and supposedly all the same offering that we're getting. And I already know it's not possible.
Yeah,
we know the cost of the parts, right? We know the cost of labor. We know the cost of the tools. And it was already not a winning proposition at the price we had it, which was, I think, about $8,800 a month. And they were doing, like I said, 71 to 73 hours, plus the tools that were included in that package. There was no way. So I know, and they said, you guys were amazing.
Yeah.
So I already know. I already said, like, hey, let's go to lunch with them before we leave. Let's like stay in contact with them because there's no way it's going to go well. the other company's just not going to be able.
It's not possible.
It's not possible to deliver.
Listen, Applebee's serves steak, right? You look at Applebee's and you look at a Ruth Chris menu, and you look at you can buy steak there, you can park your car there, you can get drinks there. It's on paper, we might be the same. You might be right, but the experience that you're going to have is 100% different. And I feel like that's what people don't get. Even in the sales process, I remember one guy asked me, he was like, well, it sounds to me like you're trying to sell me the Bentley. And he was like, but what I really want is like a reliable Honda Accord or Hyundai Accent. And I was like, so all I have is Bentleys on the lot. Like, I don't have anything else to offer you besides the absolute best that we can do. Yeah. So yeah, she might go and get the Applebee's or IT support. And I'm not trying to be negative about them. They could be great, but in the long run, it's not going to feel the same. And at some point, I have a feeling that we will be able to connect with them again.
Yeah,
we're good at that.
Well, they're going to have the same labor costs. I mean, it's pretty, unless the talent's way subpar. But then it's what they're not going to be happy. There's no way.
Yeah. So there's a difference here. I mean, everyone must talk about price, and that's one thing we've learned in the training.
Yeah,
in the last couple of years, that don't compete on price. It's come up time and time again. I was afraid of it, right?
Yeah.
Grew up the way I grew up, price seemed like everything to me too. But now I don't even like when people say, "Oh, you're not the cheapest option." We say, "Oh, we know, we know, yeah."
But we're the best price.
Yeah, we're the best price. Doesn't mean we're the least expensive.
Yeah, if I'm the least expensive, the best price, because you're gonna get more out of it.
Yeah,
than you would at one dime in it.
Yeah, it was funny. I remember I don't remember the customer now, but there was a customer. We were losing money on them every single month, and in my mind, I was like, Ephraim, why don't we just tell them, like, listen, we love you guys, but if you guys don't want to pay more, this is it. But like, we have to stop. And you were like, no, we'll just keep servicing them. You were like, no, we just want to keep them happy. And eventually, like, I think their business ended up kind of shutting down during COVID or something. But for the longest time, I could just see your commitment to just doing a good job, no matter what it costs. Right. And I was like, dude, this doesn't make any sense. And like, we talk amongst ourselves, like, bro, we're just losing money. And then we come back to you and he'd be like, yeah, doesn't matter.
I think we were in contracts, so I always take, if we have contracts, I'm like, well,
maybe
that was my fault. I mispriced it, but we got to honor it.
But if I could highlight that point about just doing what's right for the customer, because when you mentioned the offboarding, that's something that we're part of those conversations a lot of time where we're coming in and taking over for an outlying IT company. And a lot of times they never make it easy.
Oh no, they usually never brace.
They hold them never. Like we're not sharing.
Yeah.
With you guys, we're not handing anything over. But whenever we're the ones being offboarded, like, yeah, here's stuff. How can we make sure that this goes smoothly? And they remember that, right?
100%. So something I learned, and this is a concept when writing emails, is people don't remember. A lot of people put the real soft stuff up top, and then they kind of write a harsher email. People don't remember the soft stuff, so you got to instead just go like straight to the facts, and at the end put the soft stuff.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. People remember the last encounter. So we might have made some mistakes, but if the last encounter, the exit is super graceful and super customer service driven, they're going to remember it. And if it's bad with the new customer or the new service provider, they're going to be thinking about, man, why did we leave Fit? They were so great. Even when we were leaving, they were great.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it's definitely. Yeah. I don't think anybody has truly just left and not been feeling like it was bittersweet. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
we'd like to stay.
Well, we've won a lot back, so that's always good. Yeah, and usually when they come back, then they're real loyal because they kind of tasted what's out there.
Never out there.
Yeah,
the people there. That's an interesting concept for sure.
So I'll tell you a story about core values. I always thought core values were kind of silly because organizations usually just like put them on the wall, or they have some banners and stuff, or it's on the website, but no one really knew what they were. They never really talked about it. So when we started Fit, we didn't have any written core values. Not to say that we didn't have values. We obviously did. We had ethical, but our approach was like, well, we're going to live the values. We're not going to really write them out. But then later on, we started reading the book Traction and the need to hire and fire on values. And then we also kind of learned the same thing for Carbon Ventures. They were really big on they even took it to a whole new level. But I remember writing out the values and Joel was still with us. We were going through it. I was writing them out on the airplane. I don't even know where I was going. We were flying to a customer, and I was like, okay, what are our core values? And we're thinking of like what drove us to build the business, all of that. We wrote out the core values, pretty happy with them. And I think we've only made 1 or 2 adjustments since that time to the core values. Now they're pretty much set in stone. But the interesting thing is after that, we started hiring, firing on them. And one of the biggest game changers we had with hiring our talent is having them do core value presentations. See, you guys never experienced that.
I do so much. I tell people all the time with the training, like, man, we avoided so much.
Yeah, none of that. You never did that. But then you also looked at the turnover rate. Our success rate of successful employees was so much lower. And now our success rate, especially when hiring, is astronomically higher than it used to be. And basically, people are then being asked to do core value presentations for 5 to 7 minutes where they present to us not what the core values are, but how they would use those core values to be successful in the job, or examples where they'd used core values in the past. And a lot of people, they opt out. Some people present.
By the way, they opt out of doing the presentation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't want the job no more.
Because we got to do a presentation that you're studying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then other people, they'll present, but you start to figure out, hey, this is not the right person you want to work with.
Right.
And then you have the select few that just get super, I don't want to say into it, but it's like magnetism of they want to work fit. They're drawn to it. And they're like, man, I've never experienced this at a company. These are values that I believe in. I could get behind this. This is the job I want. And those are the exact people we want. And what's been interesting, because I'm not even part of the hiring process so much, but the people, when they come in and I get to meet them like on all hands or in a meeting or something, I always like to ask them, hey, why did you want to work at Fit? What was it, that you wanted to work here? And I would say 7 or 8 out of 10 will tell me it had to do something with the core values.
Wow.
In some aspect. Either it was something about the job description and the listing of the values, or it was when I had to present on the values, or something, some variation of that.
Nice.
So it's interesting. Like, I mean, from your perspective, what are the people that work at Fit like now versus what it was maybe pre-pandemic?
I would say we focus more on the details now.
Okay.
Whereas before, I think pre-pandemic, it was just get the job done, whatever way you can, right? And now that there's a lot of other things that we have to keep in mind now as we get the job done, whether it be just being super attentive to like how time entries are being put in. The training is a big part of it as well. And actually that's probably the biggest highlight right there, right? The training is the fact that it even exists now is like way different than it was more off the cuff before. Now it's way more proactive. So I think that kind of tailors the type of employee that we have now.
Yeah. Now, I think for sure when I see, and I remember clearly pre-pandemic, a lot of turnover, a lot of people would come in. MSP life is hard, right?
Yeah.
You'd get a good engineer and he'd be here for 3 days and he'd be like, this is too hard. And you know what I mean? I'd be like, too hard? That's what I'm talking about. But they hadn't really been vetted from that perspective, right? They maybe touched on their technical knowledge. Maybe they were nice enough as a person, but were they truly humble and adaptable? And I do feel like we're getting teammates like that now. And I will say, as far as the culture goes with people that we work with, this is the easiest it's ever been, especially for me. You know what I mean? Like just my coworkers were all, there's no uncomfortable moments right now. And that's been pretty standard since the pandemic. Yeah, we've had good people come on board, and we like that because we don't want to keep having to introduce new people and
No, that's right.
Yeah, so no, it's been good, and I think the core values. I haven't seen a core values presentation. I'm gonna sit and I'm trying to.
So they present. Yeah, you should see it. It's pretty cool. Well, they don't get a format that follow. We basically they know from the very beginning that there will be a presentation before hiring if they make it past their certain point. Yeah, a certain point. And so if they make it past the, the initial interview, they make it past the operational interview. Now we say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. We're really excited about moving you through the interview process. As we spoke before, the next step would be a core values presentation. And the way that this core values presentation works, it's 3 to 7 minutes. And we would like you to present to us during that time, not necessarily what the core values are, because we know that, but how you would use the core values to be successful here, and examples of where you used it in the past. And we just let them go with it. Some people don't really do too much of a presentation. Most people do, and they'll do some kind of PowerPoint or something like that as a pretty typical
video or something.
Yeah, and we don't really, obviously you're not judging it on the PowerPoint. Obviously, if they put more effort into it, it reflects well on them.
Right.
But what really counts is when they start talking. I'll give you an example. So we were at a time when project manager left. They had a lot of projects. We didn't have a project manager to step in.
Yeah.
And Shane and Amy, and I don't remember who else, found this project manager that applied for the position, and they loved this guy. He worked in MSPs before. He worked in technical fields. He was a very technical project manager with lots of projects under his belt. All the projects, accreditation certifications that you would think that you would want from someone, said all the right stuff. It was kind of a shoo-in, and it was perfect timing because we were in pain. And it was right when we started doing core values. So they were like, hey, can we just hire him? And I said, no, everybody's got to do core values from now on out. Like, we're not deviating. You got to do it. Yeah. All right. So they made him do core values, and I wasn't in it, but Shane was in it. And after that, Shane was like, yeah, we can't hire this guy. And the reason was it was the teach to promote core value. And when he started like telling the story of, he gave an example at his previous job where he had this guy that wasn't really good on the team, and because he wasn't good, he helped him out, and then he eventually got promoted. But the more he talked about the story, it was like, not that he taught him anything. He would go after the guy left for home from work, do all his work for him.
I think I remember that one.
The guy ended up getting a promotion, and the more he talked about it, the more bitter he was about it. Oh. So you just kind of figured out, like, so it was like complete opposite of like helping teach someone, helping them get promoted, duplicating yourself, all those things. It was complete opposite. Instead, he was doing work for other people, not teaching, bitter about it, and it was just like, man, this is not going to work out.
Yeah.
Like, we already know.
Yeah. And it's funny, right? It's funny when you know what you have and you can take a stance like that off of something that would almost seem intangible to another person, right? They would say, wait, I have all the experience, or somebody maybe on the outside looking at it would say, hey, he has all this experience. He's worked in IT. He's technical. He responds to email, timely, everything you could typically want. But when it comes to some of those soft skills, you can say, no, I don't want this person. I think that's pretty powerful because people can't do that typically when they're in pain.
No.
Normally they're like, you know what? I'm going to take what I can get. Yeah, but then you take what you get and you end up being stuck with it. And I will say that that's something that we haven't, we don't do.
Well, it probably would have been worse to have a new PM. He's not working out. He's not vibing. He leaves in 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Then the clients are in the same position, or they're like, man, you got a revolving door over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, I mean, the thing is like in the industry, was it like average is 2 years or so?
2 or 3 years.
And I think that
he average.
half the day was almost 10 years. It's coming up. So yeah, in a couple of weeks. But like we'd have to check with HR, but I'm pretty sure that average has been steadily increasing, right? Because like back to the point about the core values, on paper, like what you see on the resume or like the technical acumen of the person, that's like the what they do. But if we go back to the golden circles that Simon Sinek talks about, the core values bring out the why and how they do it, which is just equally as important as the why, if not more important, right? If you're not, the reason you do something and how you do it, the ends don't always justify the means, and that translates even to how we service the customer.
I look back, I was so inexperienced as a leader at some points, and a lot of the problems we had in the organization, not a lot, they're all pretty much my fault. So the wins are, I take credit, but I also take credit for all the bad. I messed it up. And sorry. I remember that when we had some leadership that weren't aligned, and they didn't even know like what we were really trying to do with the organization that we were trying to scale. They're like, well, why do you even want to grow? Why don't you just stay the same? And this and that. And it was just interesting because we weren't clear about the mission, the vision of what we were going to do, why we were going to do it, how it was important. All of those things started to come later on. And Cardone Ventures was a big part of that. They kind of pounded that into us and required that. In fact, we had some people go to I think it was one of the People Essentials, and I wasn't in there in that room that day, but Nelly said to them, hey, what are your guys' mission? And they're like, oh, we don't know. Came back, they don't know what the mission is. Well, yeah. And I was like, well, we say it sometimes, like on the all hands, like once a quarter, like they don't know. So we had to start doing it every day.
Every single day.
Every day.
Yeah. So the alignment, it's funny. I recently got to speak at a school.
Oh, yeah. So that looked cool, man.
Yeah.
Do you have the full recording?
I do. Because I had this, it's about 35 minminutes.
We should use that for content. We should clip that up.
I can get some clips too. Yeah, I got you. But one thing I told them, I told them a lot about fit while he was there, right? But one thing I told them, I was like, listen, if you want to be a good leadership, you have to tell people what the mission is, what the goal is, and you got to tell them every single day.
Pretty much.
And I was like, and I get reminded every single day. I know what my high target is for revenue. I know what my personal goal is. I know that we're trying to help 6,000 businesses. Every single day I hear the mission. If you don't remind people every single day, they're not going to be aligned.
No, they can't remember it.
Yeah, they can't remember. Yeah.
Some boss of the.
And that feeds back into like, that the conversation about alignment, and you were asking how it was before the pandemic. I think before the pandemic, like we all had to some degree an idea of like what it is that we did. But I distinctly remember one day, maybe even a few years before the pandemic, Joel asked, like, what did you do today? Or like, and he asked that not just of the people in the room, but also of himself. Like, what did I do today? Why did I do that today? And so that intentionality really wasn't there. I think we were just kind of coming in with some general sense of what it meant to service the customer, right? But it really didn't have any lasting impact. It was just to get to the next day, right? Whereas now it's much more about laying the foundation for today, but also to building on that.
For sure. No, we do know we have a plan. Yeah.
So you were telling me kind of what David's concept there of like, what did you do today? You did that when you were cutting weight. You basically looked at your meal plan every day and you're like, did I hit or did I not? Are we honest?
Yeah.
And that's a good concept on personal, professional, financial goals too.
Yeah.
Did the actions, because those goals should be so big that you don't know exactly how to get there. But then the question is, did I get a little bit closer, or did I just put more time between me and the goal? Like if I watched a lot of Netflix, I wasn't productive. I put more time between the goal. Whereas if I, did something to get me just a little bit closer, even if I don't know exactly how to get to the goal because I've never done it before, you're getting closer
every day.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, that's another topic, right? Personal, professional, financial goals. So, if we're really talking about that just a little bit, almost outside of fit, right? I remember when you first started getting in tune with Cardone Ventures and Grant Cardone in general.
Yeah.
And I want to say this was 2019 going into 2020 before we had any idea the pandemic was coming. And I told my wife many times, many times I told my wife, I was like, listen, at some point I'm going to get into real estate. And I really had no idea how. I just said, all right, my mid-30s, I'm going to start getting into real estate.
Yeah.
And I remember a Sunday morning, it was January 2020.
You still remember the day?
I did, because I remember I had just found out I was having another kid. And I remember your voice at 6 o'clock in the morning. You had said you had invited me previously to see Grant Cardone. And I was like, well, I don't know that much about Grant Cardone, but I knew he had a big personality and I just wasn't too sure about it. And then you called me early, 6 in the morning.
Yeah, he was in San Diego. I remember.
San Diego for free. And I was like, okay, dude, I got to just tell him, no, I'm not coming. Just the night before, I think it was when Magenta had told me that we were having another baby.
Oh, man.
And I woke up feeling stressed anyway. And I was like, but I did tell him I'd go. So I just got up, drove down here. And in the brief little 2 hours we were there, 3 hours, I don't know.
Yeah.
he exposed some things that I had never known. And I was like, okay, wow. And from there, right, that was 2020.
Yeah.
From there, now I bought an apartment building. I've invested in several buildings in San Diego. I bought a house. I'm holding it to over like $1 million worth of real estate. And it all started right there.
Yeah.
Right?
Also,
And then people were like, what are your personal, professional financial goals? On all of our sales meetings every single week, I would say that, I wanted to buy an apartment building in Ohio. And even one of our coworkers, Melinda, me and her get along great, done a lot of deals together. When I finally did it, she was like, I thought you were just saying that to shut us up. I was like, no. I knew like I bought into this system. I'm doing it. You know what I mean? I'm trying, but it's just something that I don't know. Hopefully I would have gotten there, but I don't know. Outside of us, you initiating that and us kind of like really putting our goals before ourselves every single day. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you bring up a good point. Like you went there, that one meeting, there was just one or two things that like stuck with you and you took action on it. And that's what I've gotten out of trainings too, like going to workshops, going to like boot camps, anything like that. And a lot of people go because they have a bad experience or they don't maybe get that much out of one. I was like, well, you're not going to get that much. You're only going to get one or two things, really. And that should be the intention. And just because you had a bad experience, are you going to stop now or are you going to keep trying? And so I love going to stuff like that. You get exposed to different people and makes you think bigger. Just see what's possible. And I've taken away certain things like you at different events that have made a drastic change in my life because I took that piece of information and applied it and it gave me just goes.
Have you been to a growth con before?
I have not been to a growth con. I've had a lot of children in the last couple of years since you guys were going, so it's always been at a time where you have to leave the white.
Oh, you've never been to growth con?
I haven't been.
But man,
you feel like you can like run to a brick wall
after bro, it's gonna be life changing. They have the most insane guests.
This is what we're.
They had some. They have
last three. Mark Wahlberg was at the last one.
Yeah, who else?
They had, I forget his name, but he was like a high level.
Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, Stephen A. Smith was there.
There's been a few.
Yeah. I remember the Tom Brady one.
Robert Herjavec.
Yeah, I've seen. Okay. Maybe
Kelly.
Maybe this time around I could.
Yeah. They've also had. I remember they've had Floyd Mayweather.
Well, you told me you met Ray Lewis, Edmund, so now I'm like.
I did meet Ray Lewis. It wasn't at the Growth Con. I met him in person. He's doing like some 10X Health thing.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I need to connect there. But yeah, no, maybe this year is my year. But I mean, just to the point, like it all kind of spills over. Even the sales process. I have the sales process memorized now, right? And as I go through the fact finding, the selecting a product, the demonstration, the follow up, it works so well that when I'm doing it, I know for a fact. I'm like, listen, I've done all of this correctly. If they don't want it now, I can just leave it alone and move on, knowing that no stone was left unturned.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then people will come, and even people who don't buy. Me and Melinda and myself have done a couple of calls, and they'd be like, dude, we've been on a bunch of MSP calls and we've never experienced a call like this. You guys are so in sync. And she and I could be arguing 5 minutes before the call starts about price point or something. But once we get on and we're in the process, it's just so smooth that it's a part of. I've worked at other MSPs. You literally just go there and do IT and leave. You don't. It's not. It's just a job, but it's different.
That's what we need to go to that next level, though. I mean, but that's why we're at almost 30 million and we're on our way to 100. Like you need to have that level of. If you want to be the big leagues, you got to play like a pro.
Yeah,
and I went to lunch. We had a client, one of their developers. Not even a decision maker. He's a app developer there. And I had never met him. He'd only been working with our team on the cyber side. He reached out to me on LinkedIn. He's like, hey, can we go to lunch? I was like, that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So we went to lunch. He invited me to lunch. And he was just asking me some different questions about how I got started in the business and all this kind of stuff. But one of the things that was interesting, he's like, hey, you guys are so different than any other partner that we have. He's like, you guys are like dressed different. He's like, when we go on the calls, like everything is so professional and synchronized. He's like, we really like it. Like, you're on another level. And I was like, well, what do you think about the ties and all that? Because he brought that up. He's like, I think it's awesome. Like, when we get on with you guys, it's different.
Yeah.
And we know you guys are the best. And he's like, do you guys actually practice or something? I was like, yeah, we role play every day because it's not by accident. I mean, for you to get that good with Melinda, or you're probably a bad example, but let's just say a new person like Tessa. Tessa's been here for how long, right?
Sure, a couple of months.
A couple months. So if you were, at the point you are with Tessa, if she never role played, it would take her years
To get to that point.
to get to that point.
So she and I are good. And we're rolling.
And you guys are good, but that's because you practiced. You shortened that time. You compressed time. I remember doing technology business plans with clients. It was before Fit. I was with another company, and I had one customer that I was involved with that we were doing this regularly, and they would do it once a quarter. It wasn't until like the second year that I felt super comfortable running that. I did the math. I'm like, well, I've only done 8 because we're doing 4 years. So I've done 8. By the 8th one, I felt like a pro. It took me 2 years, though. I go to practice 8 times with coaching, and I could have been 2 months. I could have been that good.
Yeah. No, I agree. No, one of my favorite movies is Training Day, right, with Denzel Washington. But one of my favorite lines in the movie is, Denzel is taking this guy through all these paces throughout the course of the day, and like in the evening, he says something to him like, "You've been planning this all day," and Denzel was like, "I've been planning this all week." We're like, I know that's how people feel when they're working with us, because we have a plan. Right, We're taking them through stuff, and sometimes I even think that they think they're in control. They're like, they're telling, and we're like, yeah, perfect. They're like right in sync with what we want them to do, and then they realize, like, wow, you've been getting me to this point the entire time, and we're like, yes, you know what I mean. And this is in sales. This is even in the consulting with the CIS standards now that we're helping people get to this point. They realize now, okay, this is not based off of nothing. We're not shooting from the hip. We have a plan. We practice, we've thought about this, and I think that makes people feel a lot more secure. They don't feel manipulated. They just feel, okay,
Well, they're being consulted. Yeah. I mean, and that's what you would want if you hired a consultant.
And that makes me think about, like, getting everyone to that point, because you might think, like, okay, it only works with some customers, right? But it makes me think of when we had our first acquisition or merge a few years ago, maybe about 4 years ago or so, and there was some exactly, and some customers came over where at first glance you think, yeah, these guys aren't going to want to stick with us. We're too expensive or something, right?
And so a few of them were customers.
A few of them left, sure, but a lot of them, they stayed, right? And they were spending more money than they ever even thought they would on IT, right? But it's just because of what Damien's saying, right? We kind of walked them through that process to get to that point of 100% realization that, wait a minute, this actually is great.
Yeah. I agree 100%. Yeah. So I think it's good, man. We have the plan. We're rolling. I was going to ask you a question earlier, and I think it had to do with just Fit has been in business for about 10, 11 years.
It's got to go on 11 years in October. Yeah.
If you could break it up, let's just call it like 3 separate quarters, right? Like 3 to 4 years each. First 3 years, mid 3 years, and then the last kind of part that we're in now. What part would you say is like the most like challenging or been the most challenging?
I think the challenges are changing, but I notice the hardest, there's breakpoints in businesses, so they all have breakpoints. So one of the first breakpoints is at that like $1 to $3 million mark, because before that you're just proving, is your business or what you're selling even a viable service or product that do customers even want this, or is this just an idea, right? So you're kind of just breaking through that, and then you start having to go through these growing pains at that $1 to $3 million mark. That's why most never make it past that, and then you hit another break point at the $3.5 to $5 million mark, and then after that you hit another one at the 8, then you hit one at the like 15, and then you hit another one at the 25, and then they get spaced out a little different, and the problems are pretty similar for almost all businesses, regardless what it is. You could be being a towing company, it could be it's the same, but it has to do with like at different points building leadership, building metrics, build technology, all these different things. And it's always the hardest right when you get through that break point. And that's why most businesses can't break through. They maybe like kind of get there. There's a lot of businesses that are viable businesses. And let's just say they operate like that 3.5 million and they're trying to get through that $5 million break point. And they like go all out. And 1 year they hit it. And the owner's like, it almost killed me. I'm going through a divorce. Like I'm good. We'll go back to 3.5 was nice, right? Because they never were able to operationally and people and process and profit get past that. So we've had that pain every time we gone through a break point. So it was always really hard at that point. And I remember, right at that, $5 million, maybe 3.5 to 5 million was super hard. The 8 million was a super hard one. That was transitional. 15 was super hard. And in between wasn't as hard. But at those, you run into some breaking points. Yeah. But that's when it got tough.
To your credit, though, Ephraim, I feel like at each of those break points, you've let go of something in terms of like the things that you oversee, like whether it be hiring, whether it be training or something like that. Which one do you think was the hardest for you to kind of like, that today maybe you don't have your hand?
Honestly, the probably the very beginning doing the giving up engineering was probably one of my hardest. Right? You're like, that's so silly now, right? But in the beginning, I was quality controlling. I was handling big issues, and I had to say, hey, I can't. I literally have to get to the point that I am consciously not going to work a technical issue. I'm going to give it to someone else.
Yeah. I remember those.
Even if I can fix it and it's not inconvenient. So, it would have to be an absolute roof on fire emergency to be able to handle it.
Right.
And so but that was really hard because a lot of times it was critical. It wasn't necessarily like the business was going to fail if I didn't do it, but it's critical to the customer. There might be client satisfaction issues. Didn't matter. I had to delegate it.
And that was that break point that you mentioned that was pretty early on.
Yeah, that was around the 3.5, 5.
Because you got, I feel like you transitioned it. I mean, in retrospect, everything kind of seems fast, but it feels like that happened fairly early on at Fit.
It was definitely a long time.
Because when you got here, was he still doing engineering?
He was still doing engineering, or he would still hit his hands in some stuff. I remember we did a weekend cutover, and he came that weekend. And I actually remember one particular issue that we had. We had this Citrix environment that we cut over to this new network. And for whatever reason, it was a pretty well organized cutover, and this part was assigned to me, and I couldn't figure it out. And I remember Ephraim being right behind me for about 45 minutes while I was taking on stuff. And eventually, I got through it, and I was like, dang, it's pressure when your boss is right there. But yeah, that was.
My boss used to do that too. Yeah, but it wasn't pressure. He would just watch it. He try to. His brain was working.
Yeah, exactly. So, you were looking at, you were helping, but it was just one of those moments. I was like, it was hard. I feel like pre-pandemic was one of the tougher, because obviously I didn't know what was coming. And I just remember us doing a lot of work around that time and always feeling things just keep happening. Why, just when I think we have it right, something would happen. And I remember pre-pandemic being pretty difficult. And then there was one customer in particular that I thought was.
Once again, that was around the 8, just for context, that was around the $8-9 billion mark. Yeah.
And then pandemic hit, and, you guys took me out of engineering, right, at my request, basically. And I remember thinking, okay, this is actually a pretty hard transition to get away from it, because I was engineering and being, a consultant AM. Well, I was AM so much at the top. But then I feel like around the time that all hands got standardized, I really truly feel like we really found our footing. And I did that. We made a lot of money during that period of time. So yeah, I feel like things really shot off that 2020 summer into 2021. And since then I've looked back and I'm like, okay, this is the best version of Fit that I can remember. But I definitely remember 2018, 2019, just being I was sweating in some days. I was like, this is tough.
But it's interesting you say that, because it was also a time that we were turning over a lot of team members, because we're putting in training, we're putting in And people, just for context to the people that might be listening, when we say training, no one has a problem with training. It's the accountability of training. So if you say, hey, we're going to train you guys, everyone's like, yeah, that's great. But if you're like, hey, okay, you need to train every day and we're going to report on it and you have to do certain certification by a certain time. And now it's a different story. So the training, the role play, the all hands, we even like standardize things. Something as silly as like standardizing the phone script when people pick up was a big deal to a lot of engineers. They're like, we're professionals, we know how to answer the phone. It's like, yeah, I know that, but not everybody.
Yeah.
And number two, like if you call any well-organized company, they're very standardized on how they answer the phone.
Yeah, you would be surprised what people would say sometimes, or we'd hear, or overhear, or people would do. And I'd be wondering, I'd be like, how do you fix a person? You know what I mean? Like, like you just don't understand what to say. Like, it's not that difficult. So yeah, no, by giving people the is right. For like giving the role play, I guess. But yeah, no, there'd be some things for sure. I'd be like, I can't believe that you said that. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah.
So that was a we started talking to core values, mission every day, all that stuff. A lot of people just opted out.
Yeah.
But the people we got in exchange are so good. Now you're just, wow.
Yeah, like, we got
blows your socks off if you compare them to our old.
Isn't it interesting that the pandemic does that though? Or not? I mean, the pandemic it's indicative of anything that tests us, right? Because a lot of businesses, when they encountered it, it's like, all right, well, this is the end. And it was the end for a lot of them, unfortunately, right? But like you mentioned, Damien, it was like that pain that you were feeling or that you observed was kind of right up until the pandemic. And then after that, kind of getting tested by a fire when, on the other side.
So like,
now that things are back to normal, it's like, all right, well, this
is easy. Light on you. It's like, it's nothing now. I'm waiting for, and I expect to have new challenges that always test us and create, kind of, better and more problems. So I guess, okay, what's in your mind, what's next? Like not the next necessarily for Fit, but what's the next thing you think we want to start having just in general with technology? What problem will we solve the next, right? We won't be sending people home like we were 2 years ago.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to be the next?
Well, I mean, I guess everyone's going to be, whatever's happening with the economy is great. Yeah. Unknown, people are not sure. We kind of feel it. I'm sure we're going to come out winning, and a lot of others are not going to succeed, and so that's opportunity for us. I say that's going to be a challenge. Once we start getting over that, 25, well, we're already over 25, but once we go into that $30 million mark, I think one of the big challenges is automation and technology is a breaking point, and I feel like we're a little bit ahead of the curve because we're a technology company. But there are things where you're like, okay, are the technologies we're using now going to get us to the next level? Or do we have to do some different things there? And then also just building more leaders. Because now it's getting to the point that leaders that are leaders are going to have to build leaders under them. And they haven't necessarily done that. Right? I'll give you an example. Our engineering is probably the best example because on the engineering side, Shane was managing all of the reports. Now he has several managers under him, but our other departments haven't necessarily done that.
Right.
So the manager is still one-on-one managing all the leaders. Once you go up another level, it starts to break down. If you have more than, ideally it's like 5 reports, but if you maybe 10, you start doing more than that, it just starts to break down.
Yeah.
So you have to build teams that duplicate tasks. And if one person can duplicate themselves 2 times and then another 2 times in short order, you're gonna be you're gonna be scaling, and everybody's gonna be doing a certain process a certain way and get real good at it.
That's something that's big for me. One thing I felt like at Fit is that I wasn't ever the smartest IT guy, right? I wasn't the most technical, but I was technical enough to do the job. or 95% of it, right? Maybe I'd had to get curry or sage to help with some deep, dark, VN issue. But one thing I found is that consulting with people was a big part of the work. So now when I'm talking to the engineers, I'm looking out for people. I'm like, okay, I'm hearing him speak. I'm hearing the way he talks to customers, or I'm hearing him role play. And I'm trying to find people that can do this job that I'm doing now, right? Basically, the consulting part of it. And I think that's huge, right? That once you can start duplicating that effort yourself, you can be technical. If you can talk to somebody, if you can make them understand what they need and not scare them off, doing that job well is super difficult. I've seen so many guys who I know are smart get onto a TVP or a consultant conversation, and they sound completely different.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, just talk to this person. It was one of the interview questions I used to ask. It's funny, I actually remember this. I asked it of an interviewer 2 or 3 years ago who's now a VCIO. And I said, hey, listen, have you ever had to help one of your family members with an issue? And he was like, oh, no, I don't think so. I was like, come on, a mom, a sister, or whatever. And he was like, okay, yeah, I helped my sister. And he explained how he helped his sister and how he talked to her. And I was like, okay, that's how you got to be when you're working here, right? You got to, like, you're helping your family, right? Like, you're totally comfortable. You're picking out for them and just trying to be the best for them. And I felt like that moment for him really kind of resonated.
Yeah. That's a good illustration.
So.
I like one of the big thought process that is making people's success easy. And so we used to, like, you guys, throw you guys in the fire. New people, we're not doing that anymore. We want to make their success easy. So the way they train, the way they shadow, the way they have opportunities to learn. And when I get to role play, I'm not that easy to people on role play because I want it to be real. I want it to be real scenarios that I've faced, because that's what, I was forged out of fire. You guys were forged out of fire. You get forged out of fire. And if you're easy on these role plays with people, they're not equipped when they go into that scenario, and they're going to make mistakes, and they're not going to sound like professionals. So when I go in the role play room, and I've instructed everyone, always pick either the new person or the weakest person. Don't pick Damien. Don't pick Melinda. Don't pick David. Like, those type of people. Pick literally the new person or the person that's going to struggle the most, because they're going to be the weak player, and you're going to want them to figure out how to be successful when they're in front of the customer in a real heated situation.
Yeah.
It's like Fight Club. If it's your first time to fight, you have to fight. Right.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Yeah, no, there's a lot of opportunity, man. Like, people don't realize that when we do these TVPs, all of the project tickets that come off of that, like, I mean, there's labor involved, and these guys can earn commission off of it. And I try to explain it. I'm like, listen, all these tickets on the board, I can fill them out for you. I'll send in those quotes. And I was like, hey, if it's I just did a $20,000 project, I just sold it. Well, I'll get commission off of it. I was like, it could have been any one of you guys. You know what I mean?
Could have been yours.
Exactly. It could have been yours. Anybody who was on this call could have taken this and been like, I'm going to run with it. So you try to help people to understand that, because you do want to give them some kind of impetus to improve, not just, listen, I'm role playing to get past Ephraim for right now.
Yeah.
But you want them to do a good job. You want them to feel like, okay, my efforts will be rewarded. So we're doing a good job at that.
Yeah. I want them to role play to get past a guy like Steve or Alex, or,
Oh, yeah.
not just get past him, like, have you impressed to be like, I want to worship this person.
Get that person's respect. I think, man, that's a hard. Can we talk about that for a minute? Like,
Yeah.
gaining the respect of customers, it's one of those things that's so hard, and then you can lose it so quickly. But there's a couple of customers that we had. Steve, obviously, not giving any last names, would be one. I would say another guy I work with, Terry. I really had to work hard to get his respect.
Yep.
And once I got it, I'm like, all right, it's like a little baby. I'm like, let me just carry this right now. Like, don't lose the respect for this person. And honestly, the role plays help, because when I would have previously just said whatever came to mind for me, I'm like, no, actually, there's a method to the madness.
Right.
Yeah. And I role played, we have an engineer. He came from the Midwest team. And when you talk to him, he's really jolly, really nice, really good. Like, it's someone you'd like to enjoy and to be around, right? But once he got into the role play and we started doing, consult to me on recovery tongue objective, break it down so I understand, so I can make a good decision. And he starts getting in there, and I was like, man, this is rough, but that's okay because I was rough. You guys were rough. Everyone was rough, but he wasn't ready. We couldn't put him in front of an Alex and him be successful, and then we want him to, but I know he can with train, right? He had it in him. He just needed that practice and probably a few more sessions. He's going to feel super confident. Then we could put him in front of Alex. We did that with our pen tester too, because the previous pen tester we had was so great.
She was so
great, so amazing. She left, got a new pen tester. Technically, he was good, but customers were like, this is not the same experience we had. And I almost thought he wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
And Rudy was like, yeah, you're being so hard on him. It's like, bro, I'm not being hard on him. And when I say hard on him, I'm not yelling at him or anything. I'm like making him role play. Do it again. Stop, pause, redo, do it again. Like,
because he had no problem pen testing. He has no problem.
Yeah.
He was always really good, and he would.
That wasn't but the problem is you get to the delivery and you got to integrate with it. You help the decision maker not feel defensive, help them see what's wrong, help them figure out how to make it a decision on how to fix it so they don't have a data breach. There's nuances, and also the other big thing was, where we've gone wrong a lot of times in the past is not asking what they're expecting, what a good pen test looks like. If they've had one before, what did they like about it? What did they not like about it? If they've never done it, why are they doing it for the first time? What is the ideal outcome at the end of this penetration test? What do they want to see? How do they want to be communicated with? Right? None of those questions were getting asked.
Sure.
It goes off the rails. They're working really hard. They think they're doing a good job, but they just missed one thing. I'll give you an example. We had a law firm client, and we got the contract for the pen test, and I started asking those, because I've already been burnt. I know to ask those questions. And I said, hey, what was it about why didn't you do it because I know they've been pen testing before. Why didn't you do it again with the previous vendor? Well, they made us look really poorly because they gave all these issues we have, but it wasn't fair because I gave them access to the internal part of the network. And it wasn't a fair assessment from someone from the outside. And so I said, well, yeah, that's a really good point. I'm with you. We would never want to do that. But let me ask you a question. Do you want to know what the internal vulnerabilities are? Well, yeah, I want to know so I can fix them. So the more we started asking questions, we realized, well, the issue wasn't that they did internal pen testing, and the issue was that they just put it all together so presentation decision makers made them look really bad.
Right.
I said, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we create two reports? We do the external report with all the findings from someone trying to get in from the outside, and then we do the internal report. You gave us access, but then things that if someone got inside, what they could do, you can tighten that up. Yeah, that's great. Perfect. Create two reports, problem solved.
Yeah.
But we would have went down the exact same road, give them one big report, and they would have been unhappy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because the other guys probably would have been okay had they just asked a couple of questions.
Yeah, definitely. It is just like that's something we learned in the training, right? Just figure out what's important to the person, like a car salesman. If the person says, hey, I got a big family, I need something spacious enough, that he's telling you how to sell. So exactly, right? Then, all right, cool. Thanks for telling me that. But have you seen the tires on this car? Like,
It's like, oh, let's look at the third row seats.
Lie about that. I had that in my training. Today, it was about fact finding, and you kind of forget. You're like, listen, just ask for the answers to the test. People want you to do well.
Yeah. And they want to get what they want to get.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like they want to get it. They want you to do well. They're not meeting with you so they can hopefully turn you down. They would like you to be able to deliver.
That's why the top
they need, right? They get. Yeah. So I mean, that's key. Like just asking simple questions. So
yeah. And also that, going back a little bit to the point about like how we even got there because of the training and everything, I think, to be clear, most of the people that come on board are rarely the finished products when it comes to presenting things, right? But that one's,
no one's the finished product.
Yeah, and that's the thing that maybe shouldn't intimidate people that are ever considering on, joining the fit team is like, nobody's a finished product. Like you said yourself, Ephraim, like you have to learn, I had to learn, Damien have to learn. We all have to learn at some point, but that's kind of where the core values really comes out. Like, how committed are you to following the process that we're gonna lay down? Because if you just follow the steps, you'll be successful, right? And if you follow the steps and you're still not successful, then that's on us, right?
Right.
And we need to adjust the steps.
That's good. That's a great concept. Yeah, just make it easy. The more you can show them exactly how to be successful by someone that's already done it, and they're gonna work way harder, because if they know I take these steps and this is how I'll be successful, that's a big impact.
Yeah, that's one. Having it drawn out for you is pretty. To me, I like it, because now when I do a sales process, I know exactly what part I'm in. I'm never lost. I'm never confused about what I should be doing. Nobody has said anything that I wasn't already prepared for. You know what I mean? Like, we've trained on it so many times. There hasn't been a single question that I'm just like, oh my gosh, wasn't expecting that. Like, shut down the laptop and, call them back. It's always like, okay, I've been prepared for this. I know what questions to ask. It's a powerful feeling. And you'll use that for the rest of your life, whether it's Fit Solutions or you start your own company or you go somewhere else, or and your marriage even, raising my kids. I use the agreement drill with my kids all the time, to the point where they don't want ice cream. You know what I mean? They're like, "Dude, can I get some ice cream?" I'm like, yes, you can have some ice cream, but you can only have one. I want to go to a party today. You want it at the party, or you want it now? I want it at the party. I said, do you want it now? No. All right, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
And it just like, so, it just kind of like it just works.
Yeah. And also, like, in the Cardone training, and I like how Grant Cardone puts it, is like, there is literally a finite number of responses that someone can give you on any sort of customer interaction. Like, and if you do come across a new one, write them all down. And then as you start writing them all down, you realize that they just start repeating themselves. And it's super, super rare someone asks something that's outside of the bat. And if there is, then you just adjust your training and going out for the.
I'm with you. Appreciate it, guys.